Hi, everyone. Welcome to the January 15th edition of Horses to Watch. We're back after a little bit of a hiatus. Took a couple of shows off for the holidays in December and early January. But we're starting up again this week. And instead of just taking a look back at the past week of racing at Aqueduct, I want to go back to a couple of races that I tabbed from late December that I wanted to talk about on this show. So let's begin with a couple of races from the December 29th Sunday card at Aqueduct, beginning with the fifth race on that card. I want to look at the number 6 Wild Banker in this race. And as they break from the gate, you're going to see that Wild Banker gets out just fine. He's in those blue and white silks there. He is a horse for trainer Mike Deeney, who was making his 5th career start here. One who had dipped down to the maiden claiming ranks for a couple of times prior to this, but was moving back up into maiden special weight company here. And I think he ran a winning race this day, and just a slight tactical error by his rider caused him to lose this race. As they're heading down the backstretch, you're going to see that there are a phalanx of long shots up ahead of him. And typically when you have horses that are big prices leading the pack, what you don't want to have happen is get caught in behind those horses when they inevitably start to tire on the front end. And you're going to see that down the backstretch here, the number 6 Wild Banker is racing right alongside the number 5 Too Early and the number 9, the eventual winner of this race, Hellbender. And those two, as they move into the far turn, are going to stay outside in the clear and advance up to take the lead, whereas Wild Banker just gets caught in between horses in an awkward position behind these front runners who are going to tire as they come to the quarter pole. And he just ends up losing momentum at a point in the race when you wanted to be going forward, not backwards. And you see his rider here, Kendrick Carmouche, is just having to steady him, rein him in as they're coming to the quarter pole, as those two horses who are going to finish first and second are gearing up to make their moves. Now they're on the lead, and Wild Banker's gotten shuffled back all the way to 6th, about 4 lengths off the lead. All things considered, once Kendrick Carmouche steers this horse out into the clear for the final quarter mile, he puts in a pretty good late run here. Typically, horses that get shuffled back like that, especially at a track like Aqueduct, where the kickback can affect horses sometimes, they don't re-rally this way. The Wild Banker is coming on again at the end of this race, is only going to lose by about a length at the end of this race. Made a really good late run here, and I think he's a horse that clearly would have won this race if Kendrick had been able to keep him outside of those long shots on the far turn. He's a horse that has improved a little bit with every start. Just prior to this, he was in that race that was won by that $2 million New York-bred Chestertown, who seems like one with a lot of promise, so he has some good company lines, and Wild Banker seems like a horse in a similar spot next time, should be able to break his maiden. Moving on to the 8th race on that Sunday, December 29th card, let's look at the Bay Ridge Stakes, which was the feature race on that racing card. And the number 5, Our Supernova, is the horse that I want to highlight. And you can see right from the start, she breaks about a length ahead of the field, really almost beats the gate. And while she's not a confirmed frontrunner, she is a horse with plenty of tactical speed. And given the fact that she was the 2-5 favorite in this race, I think the decision to rein her in and try to place her in behind horses turned out to be the wrong decision. That's pretty clear as you see the way this race unfolds, because the number 1, Out of Orbit, she was going to be the front runner no matter what. But the number 7, Cartwheel, who's a 10-1 shot in this race, she's not a horse that really needs the lead. And Our Supernova could have held position. Junior Alvarado's riding Our Supernova. He could have held position coming out of the gate after that really alert beginning and gotten to the inside of Cartwheel with a clear path in front of her, but instead he tries to get some cover and places her in behind Out of Orbit for the run down the backstretch, and the pace is just going to gradually get slower and slower as you see these fractions go up. They went the first quarter in 25 and change. The half mile is going to go up in just a glacial 52 and change, and Our Supernova is going to get a little keen racing in behind these horses, understandably, because she's been coming out of a lot of one-turn races where she's accustomed to racing a lot faster than this, and she's just continuing to lose momentum as they back down the pace ahead of her. Now, people are going to note the fact that the horses that finish first and second in this race actually are behind Our Supernova for the beginning of this race. They are the number 6, Mrs. Orb, and the number 4, Lucky Move, who will finish in a close photo for second in this race. But they got outside unencumbered runs and were able to gradually build momentum, whereas Our Supernova, the number 5 here, is still caught in behind horses. Junior Alvarado is trying to motivate her, but you see at the quarter pole here, he tries to go inside of that front runner, but she's backing up. He tries to get outside of her to split horses. There's no room there. And just at no point can he build any momentum. And in a stamina testing, demanding 9 furlongs at Aqueduct, you can't get stopped so many times and expect to then continue to regain the race. And that's what happened here. He ends up not even getting by that front runner, finishing fourth here. But I don't think the performance is nearly as bad as it seems. Some people might take away from this race that our Supernova doesn't want to go this far. I'm not totally convinced of that because she's a horse that has handled 2 turns in the past. I just think it was the ride and the tactics that really did her in this race as the heavy favorite. I believe that she's listed as a probable for the ladies handicap against Open Company on Sunday at Aqueduct. So let's see if she shows up in the entries there, because that's another 2-turn race. And I think she deserves a look in that race if she does start there, because she ran better than it seems in this Bay Ridge. Let's close things out by taking a look at a race from last weekend. It was Saturday's 3rd race, a maiden special weight for Open Company, going the 1 mile distance. And this race is notable because it might have some Kentucky Derby implications, just given how fast it went. Let's pick it up from the start, and I want to highlight a first-time starter. That's the number 5 Continuation. Also note that the number 6 Warstopper is the eventual winner of this race, and Warstopper is the one that's going to garner a lot of headlines and a lot of buzz out of this race because he wins this race in extremely fast time, does it in gate-to-wire fashion, and looks great doing it. But I want to focus on Continuation, who was a 15-1 first-time starter in this race, one that was shipping up from the Thoroughbred Center for Dane Kabisky. I believe that's a training center down in Kentucky. And I think it's meaningful that they targeted a race at Aqueduct for this horse, one that was training out of town, who probably could have run at a lesser circuit. The fact that they chose such an ambitious race for him to debut in, I think speaks to the fact that they were expecting a performance like this. And Continuation just runs a really admirable race for a first-time starter. This race, as I said, is dominated on the front end by Warstopper, and the pace is legitimate. You see that first quarter one up in 23 flat, the half in 46 and 3. And as they round the far turn, you're going to see Warstopper is doing it really easily on the front end, and everybody else is just off the bridle. The jockeys are really riding their horses to keep up, except for Continuation, who easily moved past that second crew of horses on the far turn. He gets into second place here, and it looks like he's just going to sort of fade as Warstopper is going to draw off to an easy victory. But as they get past the quarter pole, Continuation kicks it into another gear and really chases Warstopper home all the way. Dylan Davis is motivating him, and this first-time starter was responding to it. He's going to open up a gigantic margin between him and the rest of the field. Warstopper wins this race by 4 lengths, but it's actually 21 3/4 lengths back to the third-place finisher. This race got an extremely fast speed figure. The Beyer came back as a 94 for the winner, an 87 for second-place finisher Continuation. The time from U.S. speed figures are very similar. Warstopper got a 111, and Continuation got a 107. Those are really encouraging numbers for a horse making its debut. And if Warstopper hadn't been in that race, a Continuation would have been a first-time starter that won his debut going a mile by about 20 lengths, and probably would have been a horse that we'll be talking about as a top Kentucky Derby contender coming out of this race. So the connections are pretty low profile, and this horse probably doesn't have a classic pedigree because he's by Munnings, but there is stamina in the second generation. The dam is a half to Miss Sky Warrior, who won the Gazelle and the Demoiselle, both mile and an eighth graded stakes races at Aqueduct. So Continuation feels like a horse that showed a lot first time out, and while you're not likely to get a good price on him second time out, he's a horse that I would look for in stakes company down the line when he does inevitably break his maiden. So hopefully we can make a score with one of these horses in the future, or with a horse like Continuation. Just have some fun following his career. So thanks for listening this week. I'll be back again next week with 3 more horses to watch.